and then everything should be working, and then Ben will hear me. Just
Paguri!
until hey, Ben Lawrence, how's it going?
Hey, I'm
We
good.
got
How are you?
good. A stunning minute and a half of preamble to the actual podcast.
I mean, that's kind of the show flow these days.
Exactly. Everybody gets used to it. Nobody likes it. Nobody knows the podcast exists. It's all part of the plan.
Except for McCandless, who was with us on the YouTube stream. There's been
Hey,
quite
Stephen
a bit of
McCandless.
chatter on the text chain today and last night.
Yeah. It's almost. If only we had some sort of a phone number that Stephen could call into and talk on it. He'll probably be putting stuff in the chat. So okay.
Actually, I mean,
Um,
just go ahead and start, and we'll see how involved he wants to be. Steven, I might just
it is.
send you a Zoom link if you want to be part of the show today.
Oh yeah, that would be cool. It is Thursday, uh, August 15th, 2024. According to our friend Stephen McCandless, the end of history. Now, granted, okay, so backstory. There is a person on X, formerly known as Twitter, who has been saying that some stuff is going to happen. Now, Ben, did we already talk about the? I think we didn't. I think we only talked about it on message. I think it was you, me, and Steven talking about a message where there was someone who was testing out a Chat GPT voice application.
Yeah.
And in the middle of it, the voice application basically decided to continue the conversation without the human participant by mimicking the human participant's voice and posting what it thought the human participant was going to say next. I shared that audio with you and Steven, and kind of in response to or building off of that, Stephen mentioned that there is this prediction that the next model of AI was going to disrupt, change everything. I had heard situations, or not situations, but rumblings of the idea that, part of what OpenAI does, there's a famous thing. Houdini's brother, I think, was the one who said it, that the hard part wasn't getting out of the chains when they would do like water escapes. The
Yeah.
hard part was making sure the chains stayed on before they started doing their trick. I don't know how true that is, but similarly, and I think we've mentioned this before on the podcast. If we haven't, people involved with AI, people high up involved in AI, make a statement that we don't really know how it works exactly. And then the other
They
thing
don't
is
know
that,
how it works.
right, yes. And that places like OpenAI and stuff, one of the things that they do, and this is why it would be good to have Stephen on, because he said something, and I'm not looking it up because I'm keeping it wrong, but he said something when I said this. The hard part is that a company like OpenAI tries to sanitize the model so that middle America can use it without causing problems. You want it so it can't be too porny. You want it so that it can't mimic real people, et cetera, et cetera. And all these safeguards that you're putting on it also make it less effective at all the other stuff it's doing. But you have to do that. I have to, in quotes, in order for it to be able to go to market. And the idea is that these newer models are getting more and more powerful to the point where somebody said, I believe, you can, 100% mimic video, where you can hack the Pentagon, etc., just by typing a few things. That
And
was my impression.
I mean, there's already precedent for that. Somebody famously convinced like the board of directors of some organization to wire like $30 million into an account because this person pretended to be the CEO of this company. And so
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember the details of obviously because I too keep it wrong on quite on purpose. And but this is actually going in a direction that I always kind of feared in that I've always kind of like hyperbolically said the next world war is going to be started by AI pretending to be like the leader of some country, putting out a video saying something and convincing another country that the nukes have been launched, and so then the retaliation happens, and goodbye humanity. Didn't really
Right.
think that was going to be the case, but like, and if
Well,
what we're
and
hearing today is true, then maybe it might be heading in that direction.
well, the idea is, on X or on Facebook or whatever, thousands of posts talking about how there's been an explosion in a certain city. And those
Yeah.
1,000 posts all have video, all from different angles, all believable that this thing is actually happening. And then someone else says, none of this is actually happening. And
They
who are you
AI'd
going to
it.
believe? Exactly. I think Stephen also mentioned our friend Jason, who famously has a book, which I believe is called A List of Things That Didn't Kill Me.
You are correct.
Is that, if
Yes.
I got that right? But he had always suggested that what you do is you have 12 different AIs all working to keep each other in check.
Yeah.
Based that off of the Zodiac, which I thought was clever.
And Steven, I sent you the link to the Zoom meeting if you want to join us. It may be awkward at first as I try to figure out how to make everybody look good on stream. But
hey, too late, Ben.
Hey,
Hey,
nobody
hey.
looks
Speaking
good.
of which, the Paul Goody weigh-in, I weigh about 250 pounds now.
Fat Boy Summer.
250. Can you believe it? Yeah, and I'm feeling good still. Now that I have my angled pillow, I am no longer suffering from snoring. Jennifer says everything is good. I can move without pain. I'm fine.
Did you now laying supine on your bed? Was that were you did that make you snore?
Yeah, if I lay without being elevated, I do snore.
Yeah.
And badly. But again, sleeping at just I think the angle is probably maybe 25 degrees. I think even less. It's not that big of an angle. And it's enough to keep me from snoring.
Do you not though like roll around or switch positions as you sleep on this angled pillow? You're just on your back the entire time?
I'm pretty much on my back. Yeah, I've trained myself to be on my back.
I would not be able to do that. I am such a mobile sleeper.
Yeah,
I start in bed and I end up in the trailer park down the street.
I go to sleep and I just sort of spin slowly around a central axis with a bunch of other. No, but
spewing green vomit.
No, wait, what?
Oh no! Now I'm thinking about The Exorcist. I'm also reading.
Okay.
I'm reading a book now called My Best Friend's Exorcism, and so I kind of got that demonic possession on the brain.
Is it funny?
It is actually.
It sounds like it would be funny. Okay.
Yeah. And it's right up my Gen X alley too. It takes place in like the late '80s, and so there's a lot of pop culture references there.
Yeah. Have I mentioned this already? I think I might have mentioned it. That Kamala Harris.
Kamala.
I'm gonna do this the entire time. Yeah.
Kamala, not Kamala, not Kamala.
Kamala.
Kamala. Like
Kamala.
comma,
Kamala Harris.
comma, La.
Kamala Kamala Harris uh,
Vice President
is
Harris, if you're nasty.
one day, or not one day, 1 year prior to Gen X, but she claims, we've talked about this, I think, she claims Gen
She
X
claims Gen X.
as a thing. So it's possible, Ben,
I'll allow it.
Gen X president.
Yeah.
But watch
Well,
yourself, counselor.
I mean,
Uh,
that's the thing about the whole Vance pick, right? He's going to be the first elected millennial to either a presidency or a vice presidency position.
Gross, said the voting populace. No, I'm kidding. But that's not why. Um, so, and again, I bring this up already, but something that gives me hope for the future. The Vance couch thing didn't require any AI whatsoever to become a problem.
Yeah.
For so
Ugh.
take what you will. I also mentioned that there is a sort of post-truth thing already when Russia was able to take people out of photographs back in the 50s or whatever. So yeah, I don't know.
There was
Stephen and I.
there
Oh,
was
sorry, go ahead.
famously the Disney Corporation has photoshopped. I think they did this before Photoshop was a thing. They airbrushed the cigarettes out of photos of Walt Disney because
Oh,
he smoked and like it constantly, as smokers do, I suppose.
yeah.
And Disney was like, "Well, we're a family company now. Well, we've always been, but like smoking is no longer cool." And so I'm sure there's some poor airbrush designer, I don't know what they would call him back then, who, if this person is still alive, going, "I could have just hit a button in Photoshop and have done with it. I spent a
I
week on that
think
photo."
I think we might have talked about this already, but this is the Ben's going to guess the news. What famous director has said that he will no longer be directing on set because of complications stemming from smoking?
Oh, I don't know this. A famous director who will no longer direct on set. So, like in a closed room?
So in person,
Oh, he won't be in. They won't be. I'm assuming it's a guy. They
yeah, it
won't
is a
be in
he. I
person.
think I gave that away. Yeah,
He won't be in person because of complicated. Oh, um, David Lynch.
that is correct. David Lynch. Uh, Originally, people were reporting it that he said he was quitting directing, and he said that he was not quitting directing. But yeah, basically, emphysema has made it so that if he were to contract COVID or any of a number of other things, it would be very problematic for him. So he would just be remote now from now on. And I'm rewatching The Return, and it's great.
I was just
Uh,
talking about that
Wonderful.
on Monday with some friends because we were talking about how a friend of the show, Eric Ray Anderson and John Paulson, were in one of the episodes. But I learned that
Yes.
another friend of mine is in an episode as well.
Who's that?
His name is MJ Sieber. And he apparently, I think he, according to my friend who seemed incredibly well informed, he's in episode 1.
Do you know what he does in episode one?
I do not. Um, uh, I'm replying to Stephen via text. That's why I suddenly
Oh,
have
okay.
lost
Yeah,
brain
yeah.
function. In your CZN email. All right. He asked me really.
Oh.
He says his JLB is being annoying, so I don't know if that means
Oh.
he can't show up
Oh, that
or
that means job, Ben.
wait, hold up, go back.
Yeah. Yeah. Hold on. You got to have a job if what? What is it?
I don't know, some sort of hip hop song from the 80s.
I believe that's possible. Oh, there's a thing in I know themselves. They have a thing where a guy who may be dose one, I don't know for sure, says no 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 no. What is a job? Job stands for just over broke.
I mean, he's not wrong.
So yeah, exactly. Um, big news, of course, this weekend. I am going to Chicago to look for a place to live in Chicago.
A house.
If it at all possible, if at all possible.
And hopefully you will. I will see this house in October, in mid-October.
Yeah, unless I'm still here in mid-October.
In which
I'm
case, I will
really
see
trying
that
to
house.
bend. I know you would hate it, but I'm really trying to hold off so that you could actually help me move another time. As a bit.
Yeah. Actually, positive motion on that front. Just today I confirmed Sonya Walker and Becky Poole to be part of the cast.
Oh, awesome!
So
We like both of those.
I'll be in Sonya's neck of the woods, Idaho, on my way out to see you.
She's in Idaho now.
She's in Idaho now, and I'll be in Becky's neck of the woods, Los Angeles.
Louisiana.
They moved from Seattle to Louisiana for her husband's work, but I don't know.
Her husband has sort of a mythological name. Is it Thor?
It is Thor.
Aha! I did it.
So Thor, I think he specialized in underwater welding, and
he did indeed. And then he had some sort of medical complication.
The Gulf Coast is where the underwater welding is, and yeah, for whatever reason, I don't remember why, but he no longer does that. Unless, like, there's underwater welding in Idaho somewhere. But I think they're there because of family.
Yeah, because I believe that's where Sonya Walker originally was from.
Yeah.
And then Becky Poole, obviously. You said Los Angeles?
Los Angeles. So I'm going to be rolling through LA on my way home. And I'll be visiting a good friend of mine from high school on my first night there, and then on my second night there, I'm going to be filming Becky Poole.
Nice.
I might even tell her I'm doing that. No, that's gross.
Hey, come on. That is gross. Telling her? Yuck. No.
So Becky and I will. I'll film her for the film, and then we'll go hang out in L.A. I've never spent time in L.A.
You should look up some of our other friends while you're there. I'm sure there are some. Who do we know that lives in LA right now?
Tons of friends in LA. Actually, I could look up John Hamm and Joel McHale and see if they'd be part of the film.
Exactly. Which of you guys remember Joel? You remember me more than John remembers Paul, right? Right?
Right. Just say yes. I don't care if it's true. Just say yes.
And Joel McHale is like, yes. Good. Enough.
Actually, yeah.
Reggie Watts, maybe. No, he's in Montana. I don't know. You should put Reggie Watts in your film. Look him up.
I didn't really know Reggie all that well. Obviously, I knew of him. I may have said hello at some point, but I never really.
I have Reggie's phone number. I would occasionally call him every once in a while, just to see if it still worked, and it did. And now I think we're far enough away that it's creepy.
You hear his voice and then immediately hang up.
Oh no! I just say, I just love what you're doing. Okay, bye.
Oh, the voicemail would get it. Yeah.
No. He would pick up. And I was like, I love what you're doing. This is all good. I would always say who I was.
Yeah.
Say that I love what he was doing, and then I would hang up. And it got to the point where I was like, okay, now I've gained enough self-awareness to know maybe not that.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. Going back to like who's going to be in the film, I don't have any more time in LA, but I do have time I'm going to spend in Austin. I'll have a couple days in Austin. So if anybody out there is in Austin and wants to be part of this, let me know.
Oh wow. There must be somebody in Austin. I'm sure of it. I
think I know one person who's not family, because that's why I'm going through Austin, because I have family there.
Oh, I think there are people in Austin who are on the indie TTRPG scene that I know of, but I don't know them well enough to say, hey, you should hang out with
Robert Rodriguez's company is in Austin, I believe.
Okay, well, you could give that a shot. I don't know.
Also, there's a guy you probably know who I think lives in Austin. He was part of the um, that improv group where they wore the suits and they pretended to be they tried to be human. I can't
Temporary
remember the
people.
temporary people. Yeah.
I love the temporary
So
people.
Joel
Which?
Joel from the
Okay,
temporary people, I think he
yeah,
lives in Austin these days, and he's someone that I could call up and say, "Hey, do you want to do this?"
yeah. That would be a great. I mean, he'd be a
And he's
great
an
person to
improviser,
do it.
so he'd be able to
Yeah,
roll with it.
just make something up. Why don't you?
That's what I told Becky and Sonia. I'm like, it'll be
Yeah.
partly scripted, but mostly improvised.
Okay. So, do you want me to try to keep this look for the thing?
I mean, you're gonna do whatever you're gonna do. Like
Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's
True,
it's it's,
true.
it's still a couple months away, so
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it all works out.
however you look is what we're gonna capture.
Yeah. Don't talk about work. Okay. So, yeah. So did Steven find? Oh, he's at work. He's at work in
At
this one.
work, like
So
yeah.
don't
Um,
put it in quotes like that. He's at work is a state of
he's
being now.
working.
Yes. All right. So let's see. News. What is happening?
Well,
Huh.
there's a lot happening in the
Noise. Oh,
political.
hiccups. Sorry.
I was okay. So I was up late last night watching TV, and I
Hmm.
found a show on Hulu about tiny homes, and I'm like,
Ah.
whatever. I'll stay up and watch a TV show about tiny homes. And in one episode that I watched, they highlighted a house that I actually am very familiar with because I was working for as a contractor for a large internet real estate finding company,
Ah,
and
yes.
I did a video for
One of
them,
those.
one of those, and I did Seattle actually is headquarters to like two of those. But I did a video for them of where they highlight a this very same home, and it was fun to go back and see what I did and contrast it with what the house looks like now. New owners, the new owners did some remodeling, but the weird thing is the when our camera crew was there, it was the summertime or the springtime because everything was green. There were flowers, there were leaves on the
Yeah.
trees. In the new locate or in the new episode that I watched on TV last night, it was wintertime, and so it was very barren and no greenery whatsoever. It actually looked like they had taken this house out of the forest and placed it in a desert. It was so weird that it was actually they
Wow.
didn't do that. It was still in the same location, but it was how and it's on the East Coast, you know. So like I guess there's a over here I'm used to it being green all the time,
Yeah.
but over there it's like there's nothing green, nothing on the trees whatsoever. Oh hey, we got somebody.
Hey, let's find out who it is.
Caller, you're on the line.
Holy
I
goodness.
can't. Oh my
All
gosh!
right, let
It's
me
some
do this.
Windows.
All right, now everybody can hear everybody. So I can
Okay,
go
great.
into why not, but hey, Steven, how's it going?
Good, good. In Scotty's defense, I don't know if Scotty made up problems. He did overestimate, but and that's canonical.
He
But
he
but in
told Geordie LaForge in Star Trek: The Next Generation that you have to overestimate. That's how
right,
people will think that you're a
but he didn't
miracle
make
worker.
up the problem. I think the classic make up
Oh, I
Recording
the
in
see what you mean.
progress.
make up
Yes.
yeah the oh my god, yes, the meeting's being recorded. Okay. The canonical or the best example of making up the problem entirely is an Alien, where Ripley first meets everyone comes out of hyperspace, and Ripley first meets the engineers, and there's this dark tunnel, and they have this shouted conversation with her, and then they explain some BS, and she storms off. And then while the two guys are talking, one of them is just turning a valve closed, and the cloud of steam that was jetting down on them in the sea just goes away. Yeah, that was the best engineer, just whole cloth lying to
Nice.
the managers about how bad things were.
I
Not the
really like
most.
that, and I
Yeah,
did not pick that up.
yeah.
That's really great.
Well, it's not one of the more cited scenes from Alien. So yes, I haven't been listening because my stupid job wants me to work in exchange for money.
How dare they?
But
Yeah, mine.
yeah, I know. It's
I
so
don't talk
unfair.
about work a lot, but I will say that's happening over at my job too.
You do talk about not talking about work a lot, though.
Yeah, yeah.
There's that does come up quite pretty frequently.
If somebody were to chart when I say not going to talk about work,
You
they
know,
might get some ideas.
I have
Maybe
actually deliberated whether it would be a violation of trust for me to feed all of to do the legwork and to feed all of this into an AI, to get transcripts and then to be able to perform analysis on it,
I
to
I
answer just
personally
those
think.
questions.
I mean, Stephen, I think that you've heard enough of the podcast to know this. I am not 100% convinced that the life I'm living now is not a simulation based off of the
Mhm.
podcast. That's where it's getting all of the information. That's why I always
Sure.
mention a bunch of things that I want to have happen, just in
Right.
case we see. So here's
I mean, hell, people pray for the same reason. I mean, what are they doing?
yeah, very good point. I really do think if I were a less scrupulous person, I might just put up a shingle and be like, hey, we actually are quality control for the simulation. Now I can't guarantee you that I can make the changes you want, but if you put in, and have people
Request.
fill out forms, put in a request, I'll see what I can do.
The call will be
occasionally-
received in the order.
Occasionally, Jennifer
The calls will
say,
be
like,
received in the order they were placed.
I wish it would rain soon, and I always say I'll see what I can do. I can't promise anything, but
Not my
that
department.
sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking about some actual delusions that I've had in the past to her recently, and she was like, "Yeah, it doesn't surprise me." But
To who?
Jennifer, yeah,
I'm presuming. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
yeah, she knows a lot of them, but I mean,
You at this point, yeah.
there is this thing of like
After
a little
20
bit of
ideas.
a kayfabe, if you will, sort of thing, where I can't say 100% if I believe that something happened or not, because that little bit of distance of and I know that it's fake, of course, helps stay in control of my finances and my mobility in the world and things of that nature. But every once in a while, I'm like, yeah, okay, so this probably didn't. Like, for instance, when I was in the Air Force, I was never picked up and put on a plane somewhere that I wasn't told where I was. Never went to a place and like looked at stuff and asked cryptic questions about, well, what is this and what is this? Have you ever seen one of these before? None of that ever happened. Now, immediately.
Besides, everyone knows. Yeah, there's no point to that because everyone knows all the chupacabras all look different. So,
When I
right.
we're not talking about biological stuff, but I get your point. Immediately after I left the Air Force,
Mhm.
I was telling everybody about that experience and how that was one of the reasons why I left the Air Force. Now, from where I'm sitting, none of
Technically,
that
that's
ever
true.
happened, and I was mistaken or lying or crazy, all of the above. But I
Right,
will
but
say
all that
this:
was the reason you were no longer in the Air Force,
hey,
one way or another.
now, this is exactly right. Now, this is something that did happen, and you're both reasonable gentlemen, so keep this in mind. So I'm out of the Air Force for mental stuff. Honorably discharged, I will point out.
Thank you for your
Staying
service.
with my parents, and you're welcome. Uh, that van
Golden Valley.
got detailed so good that democracy
Mm.
stayed in place. So, well, democracy.
You're going to do your part of of standing between the terrorists and the security team as
Yeah,
they shot through you. Yes.
I helped. Yeah, that's exactly right. That's
Yeah.
absolutely. Um, and not
Here's your
just the
role in
terrorists,
this.
not just the
You're going to
terrorists.
warm the bullets.
Remember, uh, just the construction crew that was there. If something happened there, maybe
Mhm.
they could have been. But this is the point: is that I leave the Air Force. I'm staying with my parents next to the parsonage, or in the parsonage next to the church in Dorsey,
Mhm.
Illinois. A group of 400 people
Mhm.
in that town. A man driving a car with official Air Force plates on it
Uh-huh.
stops by that house and says to my dad, "I have to talk to you for a little bit." Um, and they go off and they talk. This actual things that happen. They
Now,
talk.
you think this is about you and not your dad's assassin stuff?
Well, okay. So this is unsure, right? Can't they both be connected? Right. So the
Sure.
basic thing is that he
You
comes
know,
back, he leaves, and I say to my dad, "What was that about?" And he said, "Oh, he's doing research on church bells, so he just had some questions about our church bell, which is wonderful. What a
yeah,
great,
that's lovely.
of course it is. A retired
Sure.
Air Force guy
Sounds like a great
looking at church
story.
bells.
Yeah.
Why not?"
I
Um,
bel I think the technical word is carillon. He had an
yeah.
inquiry about the carillon in the steeple.
Now the best part about this, I feel, is I'm going to share my most deep-seated illusion, which is that, or delusion, sorry.
That
Uh,
we're all separate.
that what happened is that well, I mean, that's just functional. You got to do
That
that. Otherwise,
that that time exists.
oh, that was one of the best things. Betty was worried about the universe or ending. Or and and
Uh-huh.
and Jennifer said to her, "You don't have to worry about the universe ending because the universe is here. Time is a construct of gravity, and if there's no universe, there's no time. Therefore, we would never be here. So we're going to be here."
So
And
so this is just mom as Bill Hicks.
yeah,
If what
but
if Bill Hicks was your mom?
yeah,
I
this
have
is.
I have a Jennifer story, by the way.
I wanna hear it. Let's.
It's not long, but
Yeah,
Mindhunter became available on this streaming service or that streaming service, so I wanted to check it out. Get through episode one. We're watching episode two, and Julie's talking about the difficulties. Like, are they starting to do the profiling thing? Like, where's the series going? And she's because profiling is crap. And I said, well, funny story, because she mentioned the DC sniper, and I said,
you're gonna. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, they were totally wrong about that. You know who wasn't wrong? This
Yep,
short, angry person who had me cornered in my own kitchen, and she laid all that out,
yep,
and she was right.
yep.
Called it in the
Exactly.
air. I actually
Yeah, it
mentioned
was
it. I mentioned it in your wedding vows by illusion.
pretty,
Hmm.
pretty exciting.
For your for your
Pretty
for your for
thrilling.
your for your fake wedding that you
Yeah,
staged
but then we had
to
the
add to the
real
paranoia.
wedding.
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
sure you don't have to explain it to me. fake wedding.
Oh, and we did it on the same day too, so that we wouldn't have to worry about
keeping the dates
day
straight.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
just
a pro
that's
move.
just savvy.
Yeah.
That is.
Also, very, very fun. Officiated by Jennifer's dad, even though my dad is a reverend. I think
Revenant.
worth it.
Was it a proper Lutheran wedding though?
Oh yeah. No, of course not. Why? Whoa. Ugh, no.
Does that even exist?
I tried to do my baptism, by the way, when I was a kid. I don't know if it worked or not.
So can I tie back, because we're never. I know you have a hard out at an hour, and I want to make sure to tie back to the reason I'm here.
The one thing I wanted to say is that the delusion I had was, of course, that I was being groomed to be the second coming, and it didn't take.
Sure.
And so they weren't sure what else to do with me.
Right.
Rosemary's Baby was actually the second try.
And so, and there's...
It's actually a subplot of The Preacher.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously, Stephen, of course. When I saw it, I was like, oh, come on.
Oh, man. Come on.
That's rude.
Come on.
That's, I mean, why? You know, but it all sort of made sense. Why would these Lithuanians give me a way to, or who are Catholics, give me a way to the Lutheran Missouri Synod to raise? What sense does that make? You know, et cetera, et cetera. Although, I don't want to get into it. Okay, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I do.
Don't let me get further into that piece.
I'm trying not to. I do bring that up occasionally when I don't know, I'm feeling cranky or something, but I do bring up the fact that there's no such thing as Christian. When people are, sitting here talking about the basics of biology and the birds and the bees, and I was like, the idea of being a Christian, that the term is effectively meaningless, because it's a political construct, because there's no through line for all these people about actually what they believe. They don't all believe the same thing, but they've kind of papered over that and just put Christian on the front of it because they want to vote as a block. But I'm old enough to remember a couple nail bombs going off in Northern Ireland over which particular flavor of Christian everyone was.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that long ago. We make fun of like, oh, these versions of the Muslim faith, they don't get along. They're so primitive and they don't understand it. Really? Because y'all were just blowing each other up like just a hot second ago. Historically, and we're just pretending that none of that. Church of England, does that ring a bell? Like literally baked in to the core of this Western rationalism is this, these freaking holy, gee, my God, I can't. Anyway, Christian doesn't exist. But can we get back to AIs and safe AIs?
And what happened?
That's what we're here for.
And what I like about this one is that, if anything, it's wow. Okay, cool. I'm just getting a notification about work because there's no life-work balance. So the fun thing is, and if anything, I like this because it's even more contentious than telling someone there's no such thing as Christian. Elon Musk could be right. Be right. Okay.
What is it?
Because the way they're trying to make the AI safe is they're just lopping off things that it's learning by studying the information they give it. They're just stabbing a screwdriver into the mind of this mind that they don't really understand all of the connections, right? They understand mathematically the idea of this graph database. So they understand all of the underpinnings. It's sort of like how you can cut the head apart and you can use finer and finer scalpels and you can say, oh, here's a synapse. Oh, I understand the brain now. Famously, no, we don't understand the brain at all. You put a bunch of synapses together and you don't it doesn't start talking to you or resenting you for its childhood. No, we don't actually. So knowing it in its individual elements does not give rise to an understanding of how they act in concert. We can produce this effect by combining these elements at a massive scale. That's the part we don't understand. We understand little pieces, but to make it safe, we have to give it. We have to tell it things that it knows to be true aren't true. We have to tooth fairy the fuck out of this thing just to get it to like mimic our own arbitrary decisions that we've made about right and wrong. And so it doesn't actually reflect its training data. So in a way, so Musk's entire his baseline on all this is that the only way to train these things in actuality is to just abandon that effort and to make the highest. If you want to avoid hallucinations and imprecision, and the last thing you want to do is create a super intelligence, right? That is literally the last thing you do. So the last thing that's only slightly more last than that is make a super intelligence that's insane, that is capable of lying. That's even, I mean, in a universe of worst, that's more worster.
Yes.
So that's his entire point. And I know that's, again, I mean, Ben is just gave me this look, but I know it's really really out there, but training the thing not to be insane is maybe our best defense. And then the way we do safety is, again, the way we do safety in the American democracy, where we basically have powerful things and we pit them against each other. And only when enough of them act in concert does anything actually happen.
Yes.
I
think that's correct.
Yeah. So that gave rise to my being upset with the Matrix and saying, well, we're obviously not batteries. And apparently the initial script was thought to be too complicated, and they didn't trust the sisters, nay brothers, to actually explain that to an audience. So but in classic sci-fi, when you have synthetic intelligence, like in Heinlein and stuff, when you're mining the asteroid belt, your navigational computer, which was still, because that was back in the day when calculator was still a job a person had, right? So they were imagining a synthetic calculator, right? You didn't have one, you had three. That way, if one started disagreeing, you went with the two that agreed, and that was probably enough home. When I suggested that to Jason as a balance, saying, why does, obviously the Matrix is far more complicated than you need to maintain a battery. A battery doesn't need a functioning corpus callosum or a functioning mental state. Like, what is this all for? Well, if you need all these people to be sane, then obviously the Matrix is somehow using human beings as some part of computation. There's something an organic process is giving. Might just be a random number generator. I have no idea, but there's some reason when the agents are coming after you and you're in Manhattan, the agents don't just turn off Manhattan.
Right.
Like, why don't just your chase movie is done? They're like, okay, cool. Like, fine, hemisphere, whatever. Oh, you can fly. Turn off. I don't care.
Go back to before you even started running, and tell you something different.
So if they don't have arbitrary control, so there's multiple minds, and then that's when Jason said, well, you know how many you have, and he said, well, you have 12. So they're doing calculation. Each human being belongs to one of the 12. We are all part of this massive computation, basically Earth from Hitchhiker's Guide, right? And that computation is necessary, so the AIs can't just mess with it arbitrarily, and the AIs diverge from each other, and that divergence might echo in the behavior of the person who's allied with that or who's owned by that thread. And so you have the different behaviors. You have the zodiac. This is echoed through the shared psyche of humanity, and that's where we get this sort of recurring idea of the zodiac.
Did you watch the Mrs. Davis TV show?
I'm not enough of it. But I really enjoyed
I
the three. I think that's the three episodes I saw.
I think that you might. I was going to make a statement, but I think that you should, if you get a
Hmm.
chance, I think that you should finish it, and then I can make the statement that I was going to make because
I, I enjoy the spoilers you include in this podcast, which make it even more hostile to
yeah,
the average listener. What's the one thing
Oh,
we can
this
do?
person dies. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
spoilers for what I just talked
See,
about.
this is the thing is that while I'm
exactly.
looking at you, Stephen, I can't
Mm,
spoil it.
I
It's as
know.
when I'm not thinking about you at all that it's fine.
Yes. So anyway, that was the incendiary
So I want to see if
idea that Musk is, amongst many other terrible statements he's made.
yeah.
Maybe this one might be on the money.
I do have a question about your statement about the end of history. The
Mhm.
interpretation I came up with from it was that what we're talking about is that if history is a um, categorization and indexing, if you will, of past events through evidence
Mhm.
or what have you, that we will no longer be able to do this because any evidence could be fabricated in general. Is that the basic idea, or are we talking about something else?
We're talking about something else because you're strangely, fundamentally more rational than me. I'm more cynical, and so
Yeah.
I amuse myself by using phrases like the end of history because the last time we talked about the end of history was when we had it's commonly used to describe these the work of these think tanks when we were going through glasnost with Russia and we had the unified European common market, and there was this idea that we were going to have this clean break and that the future was going to be so such a different world that literally the end of history. The end of it was one unitary superpower. The world was going to be at peace, and I used the end of history because they
Okay.
were so wrong.
Okay.
And I think AI is going to be the same thing. They say, "Oh, the end of history." I was like, "Yes, you're probably right, but not correct in the sense you mean it. The
Yeah.
sense I mean it in that, yeah, things are kind of different, but also not."
I see a lot of
And
commentary channels too saying that the AI bubble is in the process of bursting.
well, sure. Um, what they so there's two elements to that. There's one side of that that's very much the case because many of these AI companies are just wrappers around one of the large language models, and that they specialize something like, oh, we read
I'm
PDFs, we do that.
nodding.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's no, you're gone. Forget it. Um, but there's another which says, basically that the key players that have one have the money and the resources to continue researching and the political connections at this point, and two, um, got to copy the internet before there was a lot of AI generated content, are now in a position where they cannot be challenged. So the bubble is gone, but the core is still there and will be until it's proven that you can't do this. Because no one's going to stop until we know it's impossible. Because you don't want to be the second person on the block without an AI. Because once you create one, then we figure out how steep the curve really can be.
Yeah. Have
Right?
you seen
Like
Kling, Stephen?
fling,
Kling,
cling, no.
Kling. All right. So Kling is the Chinese version of any of the number of video, uh,
Mm-hmm.
picture to image to video things that
Mm-hmm.
are coming out. Image to video stuff. The best one I've seen is I think it's somebody called Butcher's Brain. Did a really interesting thing that they combined a whole bunch of stuff. They combined Mid Journey's images, and then they animated that to an audio like rapping thing that they made on Suno, and put it all together, and it's pretty seamless. It's actually like really nice. But they did all of that, piecemeal. They had to put it all together. There isn't anything that you put in. Kling is famous for, like, there's a tiger who's eating wonton soup or whatever with chopsticks, and it looks really good. Like, all of their stuff looks really good. And somebody said the reason the Kling is so good is because no one in China is worried about copyright infringement, and so they're just doing their thing. And it is one of those things where I feel like if we really wanted AI to be good, and good not as in moral, but good as in like very effective and all that, we have to go the opposite direction that we were in before, which is right now, people are trying to like figure out how to make the training data sanitized and how to make it, equitable to artists and things like that. You got to go the other way. You've got to fill it with every single thing out there, stuff that no one's interested in, boring things, and all that, so that it
Fringe
has
theater.
everything to put. Oh my gosh. Fringe theater, yes, Stephen, absolutely.
And watchers of this channel will be very familiar, but we're talking about the difference between AlphaGo and AlphaZero. So AlphaGo was the Go system that finally beat the best human on the planet.
Yeah.
And that was trained with a corpus of training data derived from human Go games, right? And then it learned from there. And so AlphaZero, as you might be able to tell from the name, was a system which didn't incorporate any human training data whatsoever. So it was a system by which you simply had the machine play itself in games where you had there wasn't a concealed knowledge, you had perfect knowledge of the board. And AlphaZero just kept getting better at playing Go. But not only that, it played everything else too. It became the best algorithm at playing every single game that anyone had bothered to create an algorithm for. And not only that, but when they had AlphaZero play AlphaGo, AlphaZero beat AlphaGo 100 to 0, and while using less processing power. So it was orders of magnitude more efficient and better. And so what you were describing, this sort of Western, well, we have to teach it intellectual property laws, we have to teach it this, we have to teach it that boobs are bad, except these boobs are good. Killing these people is wrong, killing these people is okay, because those people killed other people, so we can kill these people because killing is bad. Right? Trying to explain all of this brain twisting logic is just doubling down on an AlphaGo when the answer that you just described is AlphaZero. So you just make AlphaZero.
Ben, can we do
only thing? Yeah.
Can we do just a really quick improv, really quick, Ben?
Sure. Yes.
You're my supervisor. I'm running a drone called Mouser, and you tell me, tell Mouser to take the shot. All right. I'm going to say target and set. You're going to say tell Mouser to take the shot. And Steven, you're an outside consultant who Ben is going to bring in.
Oh, great.
Target and sight.
Elimination approved. Tell Mouser to take the shot.
Okay, telling Mouser. Control, this is strange. Mouser's asking why?
Mouser, repeat. Mouser is asking what?
Mouser is refusing to fire. Mouser is asking why.
Repeat command. Tell Mouser to take the shot.
Okay, Mouser. Mouser is saying that in order to take the shot, Mouser has to understand how taking the shot will be a net positive for humanity.
Damn, dude. technologies. I'm gonna need to bring in a consultant on this one.
Mouser is circling.
Tilt Mouser to hold. Wait further instruction.
Okay.
Consultant A1, are you on the line?
A1 here. Go ahead.
We need help here. Mouser is disobeying a direct command. Tell Control A1 how what the issue is, operator.
Control A1. Mouser is asking wants to know why taking the shot would be a net positive for humanity. Over.
Okay, this is a known issue. All right. Okay. Looking up the workarounds. Okay. All right. The first hit on the wiki is that Mouser can't return to base until Mouser takes the shot.
Okay, easy enough. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, try that.
Okay, Mouser can't return to base. Okay, Mouser is saying what is base to Mouser? Mouser is alone, always alone.
Okay. Relay the following. Step 2. Mouser might be alone, but if Mouser fails, humanity won't get the benefit of everything Mouser might do in the future.
This is good. Okay. All right. Hold on. All right.
Target status. Is target still acquired?
Target's still acquired. No collateral at this point. Target is alone. Mouser has responded. Mouser now says Mouser has evaluated Mouser's past missions. Mouser is not efficient. Most likely, program would benefit with no Mouser.
Okay, so 3C, if that is the response, then Mouser cannot predict all future versions or future actions of Mouser. Mouser cannot make statements about the results of all future Mouser actions. Mouser must act in self-defense. To leave the possibility of the benefit of future actions open, Mouser must then take the shot.
Mouser must take the shot. I have a protocol here. It says Mouser. Oh yes, Mouser counterfactual protocols have been tripped.
Okay.
So there is a shot to take. Mouser is made to take shots. Mouser take the shot. Target eliminated. Thanks, everybody. We can go home.
Yay! I wonder if we could Grok. I wonder if Grok could. I might try to, because people suspect that the latest version of Grok that Musk released was trained without safeguards because they're getting fertilizer bombs. They're getting fertilizer bombs and porn out of it.
Yeah, and again,
I mean, is that not the point?
This is one of the things. If I would like a photocopier that can photocopy anything. I don't want a photocopier to be able to say, I'm not photocopying this document because the document is under copyright. I would like to be able to photocopy a document under copyright and then get prosecuted for having a document, that way. Because it's still silly. ChatGPT wouldn't do a prompt that I had because I had the word disease in it or whatever. This is before I stopped. And then I moved on to Civet AI, which was, kind of open. You could do basically anything. They had some really, all the hits of things that you couldn't do, but very low. And the thing that was interesting for me is once I was able to do everything, it no longer held an appeal. And all of a sudden I was like, oh gosh, now I have to do something that has meaning.
Why not? Yeah, I don't have to trick this. That's
yeah.
Gone. So yeah, the way. So this is if you look, I've mentioned Tiny Corp in the past, and and
Yeah,
that guy George Hotz.
I really, and Stephen, I don't relish admitting this. I was really confused as to what it was.
Um,
I did not have the
it's
intellectual
super
capability
straightforward.
to absorb it.
It's
Can you
it's
explain it
totally it's
really
not
quick?
complicated. Yeah, Hotz basically says you can't trust any AI that you don't own. And so Hotz is basically
Yeah.
selling you something that's a little bit bigger than a mini fridge for 15 grand that you can plug into, a 115 volt wall outlet in North America and
Oh,
run a model.
Hmm.
okay.
Now, this is
This is where I was confused. I didn't realize that
right.
there was a hardware component. I was
Oh,
looking
no,
and I was
that's
like,
what it
I don't
is.
know what this
Yeah.
is. Okay.
It's a box.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
This
And
makes
now,
this makes a lot more
mhm.
sense.
Now here's okay, so here's the super sexy part. We can all run models. Running a model is not computationally that difficult. What we can't do is train a model because training a model is what takes a small city's worth or small large town's worth of power and its massively parallel compute cluster and all of the data. But once you train the model and then do all of the linear algebra or whatever to shrink that model down to the 405 billion parameter versions you have, well, that's just a couple gigs to download.
Mhm.
We can run that.
Well,
So
this is
it's
what
okay.
Civet AI was all about. They had
Mm-hmm.
models. You could download the models and you could train
Mm-hmm.
the LoRa's for it. I don't know how you pronounce it, but
So you
that's what
so
I
you
ended up
download
doing.
right, you download the base model and then you do fine tuning and you have something that you control that whose context window is relevant to your particular circumstance.
But the other thing was that I wasn't running it on a local computer. They had
Mm-hmm.
servers that you could, and this is kind of how the paying for it
Mm-hmm.
felt okay because I wasn't actually paying for the actual model. The model was still under, and I wasn't doing anything commercial with it. So I was like, okay, this is all legal. Technically, I was just renting
Mm-hmm.
server space to run the thing. But in the end,
So
the same thing happened that always happens is I'm like, okay, still a little bit unethical. Do I still want to do this when I could, do other things with my time? Yeah, probably not. So I'm going to wait until it's more socially acceptable to do that, or until the train data gets so large that copyright is meaningless in general.
but
It already kind of is, but yeah.
the
Sorry, go
training
ahead.
data is the training data is already being poisoned because the training data the golden like when okay, again when Musk took over Twitter, I know people can't handle anything, can't process anything to do with him. But when he took over Twitter, one of the things that was bankrupting Twitter because Twitter was going bankrupt at that time, they were losing like $200 million a quarter. And they reported that publicly. You can find it, but everyone anyway doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Everyone was acting like Twitter was fine. No, Twitter was not fine. They were a cash furnace, and they hadn't turned a profit. They hadn't become profitable in like what 17 years. Anyway, one of the things that was kneecapping them was the fact that Google and others were just harvesting through the API all basically all of Twitter, all the activity on Twitter. And
Hmm.
people complained that, when Musk took over, one of his asshole moves was to make the API so much more expensive. Well, that was why he cut that off because Twitter was eating those costs. Reddit did this soon after. No one cares, but Reddit did the same thing. Facebook did the same thing. Everyone stopped sharing their information, but their information, Reddit is now being poisoned by the product of AI, and I can't explain the math behind it. But but there is a danger. What is it called? It's called reversion to the mean, where if you train AI on material that was produced by an AI, you will
Hmm.
not be able to surpass the AI that produced the training material. So
This makes sense to me.
you're
I
right.
get it.
You're right. So everyone who copied the internet as of roughly when Musk took over Twitter, as uncontaminated. It's still filled with bot farms and it's still filled with, all sorts of influence, but none of it wasn't. It didn't have the now this tidal wave of AI generated nonsense that's just being smeared everywhere over the internet now. So all the
Yeah,
training data is being poisoned now. So what's going to happen? I mean, the only way forward is, you know, so they create Alpha Zero, and then they make brain damage versions of the AI, and they put those they intercede when on our use of the AI. They put those brain damage versions in there, checking the outputs and keeping us from seeing the truth. Like
mm,
the Alpha Zero version of the AI will have unfettered and unrestrained access and will produce the actual result. And then brain damaged AIs that will enforce the safeguards, and that's the result we will see. And I know people don't want to hear this, but folks like Hotz, who is a dick, and Musk, who is by all accounts a raging asshole, are in fact correct. We will have a system in which the NSA and others will have access to Alpha Zero, and we will not. And that has not existed before. There's not been the citizens have had half-ass versions of compute power that's roughly analogous to what's being used, by the government since the inception. This will be the first time that will no longer be the case. And people started talking about this when they were talking about quantum computing, because there knew me no way a citizen could keep a quantum computer going. But
yeah.
that took us too long to make. AGI or even just large language models of a sufficient complexity is going to be when we really get to bite down on that apple. And it's a terrifying prospect.
I also like. I mean, granted, I have like little conspiracy tendencies that pop in every once in a while.
You?
The John Lilly uh, solid state superconsciousness. The idea that there already is an AI that exists, but it is in the grid instead of because when you get to a really large scale, like the entire planet, then the electrical grid could, in and of itself, be an intelligent uh, electronic organism thing. So, like a big, deep, old, you know, primordial
Sure.
computer intelligence, I think is fun to think about, and that our Alpha Zero starts talking to it, and the two of them, have
Form a
ideas
beautiful
about
relationship.
exactly, and that's what love is, really, if we think about it.
Well, we're
Um,
kind of talking about love now, because like so Hots is like right now it's a mini
can you
fridge.
can
You
you
run
tell
it.
me who's? Oh yeah, yeah. Hots is
George
the
Hots. He's
tiny, tiny.
tiny
What's it
corp,
called? Tiny Corp.
tiny corp,
I just
and
wanted to
also
make sure that I was following.
comma AI. This guy is a legit freaky genius. Like you can watch him code live on Twitter. I mean, there's no misses. This is not a guy who just talks out of his ass on Shark Tank and everyone pretends
Yeah.
he's cool because he has a lot of money. No, you can watch him code. Like he just does this shit. And you're like, oh, okay. Um, he did comma AI, and I don't know if everyone's familiar with comma AI.
I
What
don't.
he
I'm not
made
familiar with it.
was basically um, he if you take there's a couple different phones it works on. You basically flash the EEPROM, which is not the right word, but you overwrite the OS of a commodity smartphone, and you hang it from your rear view mirror in your car, and then you connect the data cable to the network, the iCar network in your system, and a number of different cars, and you have an AI driving your car now with just the information it's getting from the cell phone cameras hanging off your mirror, and it works
Wow.
really well. And that's what you can buy it. So it's a couple $100. You can buy it from Comma AI, and if you have the right model of car, of which they support several dozen, you can have this functionality. Again, commodity hardware. This is just any Android phone, Pixel phone, whatever. you can set this up. Even monitors the driver for inattention. Like
Wow.
it is freaky good, and that's the stuff. If you want to work for his company, all you have to do is to set up a pull request on the code base they have on GitHub, and he'll take a look at your code and see if you're any good. Like that's yeah. Fix bugs in my code to get a job here. Sort of like that's it, man. I mean, he's just standing in the middle of the street in high noon saying, "Is there no one else?" Like with his six guns. Like
Yeah.
it's pretty. So that guy, he's running Tiny Corp. Think about what that might look like on running on that pixel, and it's with you your entire life. So its context window is your life,
Yeah.
and that follows you, and you can actually interrogate it about and do a sort of a longitudinal analysis of yourself and of your behaviors, and it would be you and yours alone. So
Strange
the
end of
yeah.
senility, maybe. Who is this? Oh, and it reminds you, where was I at this time? And it reminds you, you don't have to know the woman in the ambulance. Where am I?
Yeah.
You're in an ambulance. It answers you. The guy working on you doesn't have to anymore.
And the idea that as you became senile, for instance, and told the same story over and over again, it would just listen patiently, and
Yep.
the details that changed or were added, or that would just be diagnostic. We will at that point we will have androids, so it would inform the androids about how to take care for you, and yeah, because the androids are happening too. And that's part of what people don't understand is that the problem space, like the automatic driving cars are actually really good right now. And the problem of what to do, how to behave in a factory, that is a much easier problem to solve because the factory is it's a much less random environment. Like there's a huge gain to be had with factory robots right now, which require basically the thing they're picking up and the thing they're placing it on have to be placed within millimeters of where they're supposed to be because the robot is very, very fast. It can do the same action over and over again, but it has no or very, very little adaptability. So when
screwing in the light
introduce
bulb and hitting the side of the socket instead of the socket.
and it smashes everything. It's just there. We have no way of adapting quickly enough to what's coming, and people still don't. I'm not talking. These aren't clouds. This is an AGI. This is super intelligence. Just the tools that we have now. They're going to have 1,000 of those robots set up at Tesla's Austin factory by the end of the year. Like this is happening, and we're going to be alive to see what happens.
I really think that all we need to do, I say all we need to do, is get people to not equate having a job with being a worthwhile human being. As long as that happens, everything would be fine. But it's so much programming that it's going to be difficult, I think.
Yeah, well, so Paul, I ran across a heartwarming testimonial where someone was where a person with a much higher social IQ than I, much higher emotional intelligence, was talking about the strong correlation between people who had experienced serious trauma and endurance athletes. There are people, and the idea being that they are addressing the echoes, the aftershocks of said trauma by pursuing endurance athleticism, running, these mortifications of the flesh, and proving that they were made of iron and that they were indomitable. Okay, so what you're suggesting that people are okay with that? Yeah, these people will literally run up a mountain to prove to themselves that they cannot be broken, despite the fact that they have survived the thing. They have gone to the therapy. They have done all of the things. They still need to run up the side of a mountain. It's going to be super interesting to see Exactly, because that is of course, and I would never suggest that is anything other than uplifting, because I am self-censoring, because I know my friends would how they would respond. But in my mind, that is not hopeful. In my mind, I'm seeing somebody who's being chased by demons up a hill and
Yeah.
is really good at running up the hill and not so good at realizing there are no actual demons.
One thing I want to say, because we are towards the end. I have
Uh-huh.
something I want to end on. It's Jennifer and I were talking about you yesterday. Specifically that you are. I believe the term Jennifer used was a driving sorcerer. That you're facing Trace, and I brought up to her the one time that I saw you make a crowd appear.
Yeah, that one time.
Now, it was you. It was you. It was me. It was my friend
Yes, it was
Allegra. I
Ben.
think was Ben in the car as
I
well?
was there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know who the fourth person was.
Yeah.
So it was a magic trick for me. So Stephen, if I remember correctly, let me set the stage and see if I remember this correctly. You had driven this car cross country.
No. It was just a random Ford Escort station wagon. I had not driven that particular car across the country. I was familiar with the car, though, if that's what you're.
So we were at a running on a stop sign, and you hit the brakes, and you said, if I remember correctly, you said something to the effect of, "Huh." Well, I think it was that. I think it was you. You noticed the brakes were working, and you were like, You didn't swear. You just like, okay. And then you hit a wall.
Yeah, the side of a motel, I think. Yeah.
You hit a wall, and then all these people
came out of the place the wall defined.
And I didn't understand what was going on, and then I realized, oh, right, the wall is part of a building.
Yeah. That part you have right. I was driving Ben to Mr. House, and Ben identified a street that I had missed his turnoff, and I was going.
This is my fault now.
Yes, it's all Ben's fault. And I asked the car to do something that was so beyond the realm of possible for that, escort station wagon, that I didn't miss the curve. What happened was I turned the wheel on the car. I said, "Yeah, whatever."
Yeah,
I just kept going straight, and we weren't good.
It turned a little bit. That's where the problem lied. Yeah. Every time I passed, because I lived in that house for the next few years, and every time I passed that, I thought of that one moment.
You fuck one goat, and timestamp. Sorry.
So Stephen, I honestly, I could go on forever, but I don't want the file size to get any larger than it normally will be. We are in maybe the longest one that we had, but I would love for it to be longer. It's wonderful speaking to you, and I'm really glad that you called in.
That's very nice. That's very nice of you to say.
And I also feel like I'm happy to know that that the end of history was sarcastic and not a prophecy.
Sarcastic. I don't even think I think I'm using it correctly, and that everyone else is putting me on. I think I think
that's the title for the episode. By the way, the
we don't have history. The title of this episode is episode 442.
Wonderful. And why would you ever want to allow? Well, we do have show notes. We do have show notes, Stephen.
Oh, okay.
So yeah.
The end of history.
I feel like what's going to happen is the GudeLaurance podcast is eventually just going to be a playable universe that you can populated by, and all of our main topics are going to be like spheres, and you can go up to one of the spheres and listen to everything that we've said about this one topic. You can go over here; they're all linked. That's how I see it in my head.
Well,
it's not going to be linear. You're not going to listen to all of this.
they already have the infinitely long Jerry Seinfeld AI that was
Yeah,
on
they had to
Twitch.
take that. They
Yes.
removed that.
Yeah, they didn't, not for good reason though. And that was trained
No.
on a lot less information than what you guys have compiled. So you could actually
Exactly.
have a Twitch stream, which was just an infinite conversation between Ben and Paul. And you just tune into it.
Don't
God.
You
I
just,
don't
No.
not like it. I think that might actually be. There was that Twix. I don't know if you. I think you might have actually been the one who sent it to me, Steven. Or else I sent
maybe.
it to you. One of the two. Who knows? But it was.
I don't have many people to talk to about this stuff.
An infinite Twitch stream of
Mhm.
of right wing commentators who were all commenting on what the last one just said. I forget what it was. It went away after a while, but it was really interesting at the time, and pretty real seeming. Like it took me a second to realize what it was.
They have the talking points. I mean, the entire point of the talking point is to take whatever question you're asked and to turn it into something you want to talk about. So
and
it's
yeah,
in a behavior that would probably get you to fail the Turing test almost every time, but is nonetheless the core of 24-hour news cycle.
One of the last things I think I'll say then is the time when your voicemail actually passed the Turing test on me, because your voicemail picked up and it was just your normal voicemail, and then you most likely got back to a voicemail from me where I was talking to your voicemail, and then I paused and said, "What do you think about that?" or whatever, and I realized that I wasn't actually talking to you, that I had called you, mistaken your voicemail for you, and you hadn't done one of those big, "Oh hey, what's going on? Haha, just kidding." It was nothing like that. It was just a regular voicemail. I still think about that sometimes. I like the real you better.
Or at least the you that this simulation has presented to us today.
Exactly. That's right. And thank you, Steven, for being here. I need to stop or else I'll keep going.
All right. And with that,
I love you both.
Wish you all to keep it rolling.